Jumapili.
It is the 30th day of July 2014. Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime. Let's look at the top stories today. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Owiti.
Good evening and welcome to the program. And we start our coverage tonight from the National Assembly, where another showdown erupted in Parliament this evening between Jubilee and CORD members of Parliament over a report recommending the rejection of a petition against the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Deputy Speaker Joyce Laboso had a hard time containing MPs who tried to shout down one another during contributions on the report by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Wilson Buru reports.
Yes, Madam Speaker, this is a very important matter, Madam Speaker, and I don't think I'll be intimidated.
It was yet another heated debate in the National Assembly as the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee tabled a report which rejected a petition seeking to remove commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Committee Chairman William Chepkonga kicked off the debate by stating the reasons the committee rejected the report.
Accordingly, the committee recommends as follows: that the House finds that the petition does not disclose any ground for removal of Ahmed Issa Hassan, Lilian Mairi Saja, and the members.
The motion was then seconded by the Majority Leader Aden Duale, but as has become customary, it did not pass without controversy.
If you want to disband a commission, the route is a route that the committee of the Legal Affairs Committee have taken through a petition. They keep on saying that we are looking for what we didn't get in the courts, when we are very clear in our minds. We are very clear in our minds, Madam Speaker. It's very clear. This petition...
Allow order, members.
Madam Speaker.
Order, members.
Madam Speaker, this petition is very clear, Madam Speaker, that it talks about the removal of members of IBC. It doesn't talk about making Raila Odinga president or anything.
Members, we said each person shall be heard in silence. If we all respect that, we are not going to... This heckling and shouting is not making anybody heard. In the end, nobody is benefiting or gaining.
The petition had been filed by activists Wafula Buke in April this year, seeking to have all the 9 commissioners of the IEBC sent home for grossly mishandling the 2013 election.
From the ongoings, it appears that if you don't win, actually the problem is the IEBC. And I think we must move away from that, because the referee cannot always be wrong.
And I want to tell the IBC commissioners, Madam Speaker, if you allow me, Madam Speaker, that they will not rely on the numbers of the Jubilee coalition in this House to survive.
The rejection of the petition deals a major blow to the opposition's push for the disbandment of the IEBC, especially since it is the same body that is supposed to conduct the referendum being pushed for by CORD. Wilson Buru, KTN Prime.
Let's take you to the western part of the country. The story of the Indian and Bukusu lovebirds in Webuye who have defied culture took another dimension today.
Well, Bukusu elders have thrown a spanner in the works, demanding that the girl prepares to pay dowry in order to marry their sons. KTN's Western Kenya reporter Francis Ontoma has an update.
When KTN first broke the story, kama hapa ni mlamwe yangu, ng'ombe ziko, kila mali hiko, hakuna mtu kutisha hapa butu. Na hao wakome kukucha hapa kuangaisha mlamwe yangu.
Now just a day later, a sudden change of tune.
Gana na desturi ya Wahindi, msichana Muhindi ndiye analipa mahari. Kwa hivyo nitahitaji Chapatia atafute mahari atuletee hapa, alipe kama desturi.
This latest turn of events introducing another culture puzzle to add on to the challenges facing the two lovebirds. While the Bukusu culture demands that a man pays the dowry, the Indian context is a sharp contrast. The man's family does the necessary. And in the scheme of things, it appears somebody has just removed the scales from the eyes of the residents of Nangeni village in Webuye. Their Indian mulamuas are in for a shocker.
Nasema msichana ameoa, ameamua na amekomaa, akipata nyumba yake unashukuru. Sasa yangu ni kusema tu tutafuata desturi za Wahindi, watuletee ile mali ili tupate kujiinua na Salega.
Ni chapatia kukupali tu, asaidie msijana wachenge hapa, tuwasaidie mama waita wachenge hapo.
We return to the homestead of the Hamalas. On the off chance, we meet Timothy Hamala and his sweetheart Sarika Patel, just arriving from shopping. It has been an engaging morning for the duo.
And we had woken up for shopping, so we just went for shopping in Webuye town. We had some onions, some tomatoes. Like you saw us purchasing hens. Okay, I don't eat chicken, but I was just purchasing these hens for as a pet.
Wenda shopping, nimezunguka kidogo, nimezunguka soko. Yeah, watu wako shocking. Yani whole town is shocking. Watu wakiwapata wanasema nini? Yeah, watu wanafurahia, wanatutambua.
From the homestead of the Hamalas to the streets, the banter continues on the love affair between Sarika and Timothy. And this promises to stick around for the next few days. As expected, the homestead is thronged by friends and relatives who have come to help the new member of the community settle down. Timothy's mother is happy that Sarika is slowly gelling with the family unit.
Kideri anapika, ndizi anajua kuchonga, kupika.
And mandazi in the morning, which was so great. I've never eaten mandazi at home. That is purchased from a shop, but I just had it and it was so wow. It was so tasty.
Those close to the family have, however, revealed the Sarika's family may be putting in place some tough measures in the wake of our defiance. We learned that the family could have frozen her bank accounts and confiscated what seems to be her vehicle. But even with that, the love between Sarika and Timothy appears not to have been shaken, not even a little. Francis Ontomwa, KTN Prime, Nangeni Village, Webuye.
I can't get enough of this story. Thanks, Francis. And we're keeping that conversation going. Our hashtag is My Bukusu Darling. We're asking you on a big question. Do you support fresh demands by Bukusu elders for dowry from the Indian girl?
Here's their reasoning. According to Indian tradition, it's the woman who pays dowry. Let us know what you think. You can tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Ben_Kitele, and at Linda Gutu. Let us know your thoughts. We'll share them during this bulletin.
Let's now move on to a story that is causing ripples across the globe. And while the government has moved to allay fears of the spread of the deadly Ebola disease in the country, families residing along the Kenya-Uganda border remain anxious. This coming in the face of a raft of government proposals to protect the public, which are yet to be implemented comprehensively. KTN's Wilkis Tanyabo reports.
Kenyans living near the border of Kenya and Uganda are a worried lot. The dreaded Ebola disease has rocked Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone and Nigeria, and now fears abound that Kenyans may also be at risk of contracting the deadly disease. The gateway into the country they fear is through Uganda, a country that registered cases of Ebola in the year 2012.
Tuko na wasiwasi kwa sababu ugonjwa sisi tunapeleka watu kutoka Kimaiti tunasonga paka Malaba huko na ndiyo maeneo ya Ebola.
Okay, hatujapata any cases. Sisi pia tumesikia tu kutoka kwa mtandao ya kwamba kuna outbreak ya Ebola.
The government has sent out a circular to county health directors calling for surveillance at all border points. The intermingling between persons of various nationalities crossing into Kenya from Uganda now perceived as a threat by locals. Yet while the government maintains its position, on the ground there are several obstacles to overcome.
Shita tukienda hapo tunaambiwa daktari mvumilie, daktari ni mmoja.
Don't even have wards. So tukipata maybe ni kurifa na ile wakati wa kurifa unajua tuna hata ambulance. Yeah.
The number of Ebola cases in the 3 West African countries stands at just over 1,200, with over 600 dead. Among these, an American doctor who worked with Ebola patients in Liberia. The rising death toll from the outbreak continues to spark fear across the African continent and in Kenya, as Ebola spreads simply through contact with the blood and bodily fluids of an infected patient. Wilkis Tanyabo, KTN.
Let's now move on to a story that is causing ripples across the globe. And while the government has moved to allay fears of the spread of the deadly Ebola disease in the country, families residing along the Kenya-Uganda border remain anxious. This coming in the face of a raft of government proposals to protect the public, which are yet to be implemented comprehensively. KTN's Wilkis Tanyabo, KTN.
Such as care, we're keeping an eye on that story for you. Now, the hearing of the digital migration case kicked off at the Supreme Court this morning. In their submissions, lawyers for the Communications Authority of Kenya sought to have the Supreme Court quash orders by the Court of Appeal to grant local media houses digital broadcast licenses. They also sought to have the authority allowed to set a new digital migration deadline. Rita Tinina has been following this story for you.
Led by the President of the Supreme Court, Dr. Willy Mutunga, all 7 judges of the highest court in the land arrived in court shortly before 11 a.m. for the start of the hearing of the digital migration case, pitting the government and 3 pay TV companies against 3 local media houses.
KTN, either in print.
The case at the Supreme Court was lodged by the government, which is appealing against a decision by the appeal court. The appellate court issued an order compelling the Communications Authority of Kenya to issue digital broadcast licenses to local media houses, the Standard Group, the Nation Media Group, and Royal Media Services. The court also extended the digital migration deadline to the 30th of September this year.
There's been an allegation throughout these proceedings that by invoking Rule 2B, 14.2b, the regulator was allowing other people to intercept and rebroadcast the programs of the first to third respondents. My lords, that is not true.
The Communications Authority of Kenya had its day in court. CAK lawyer Wambua Kilonzo presented to the court the factual basis for the case, including the process and deadlines for digital migration and the technical aspects of analog and digital broadcasting. The CAK argues that the Court of Appeal wrongly evaluated evidence before it and arrived at a wrong decision in its ruling.
There was no evidence before the court, and indeed as there wasn't before the High Court, to show that the body had in any way transgressed their constitutional limits or gone beyond their limits or acted wrongly in issuing or not issuing certain results.
The Standard Group, Nation Media Group and Royal Media Services moved to court, challenging the move by pay TV stations, Signet, Star Times and Pan-African Network Group to rebroadcast their signals without consent and compensation.
If the judgment of the Court of Appeal were to be allowed to stand, then it will set a precedent for other broadcasters who have invested in the sector to agitate the legitimate expectation to be granted self-provisioning BSD licenses.
The hearing continues for the next 2 days, after which the Supreme Court will set a date on which it will deliver its verdict. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Away from the Supreme Court, the immigration officers in Garissa County have said they are overwhelmed by the number of those seeking passports amid many attempts by applicants at forgery of birth registration documents as well as national ID cards. And as KTN's Ian Ofula now reports, presentation of fake documentation has had a big impact on the processing of the passports.
Find somebody, he has gone even to university. He is carrying a birth certificate which says he was born 1996. He is carrying an ID which says he was born 1994. He has written in the form he was born 1993. Now, which one is that?
Sasa wamesema fingerprint printing out hapo ndio ijatokea. Kama printing out ijatokea, ID nimepata aje?
The identity crisis in northern Kenya continues to puzzle area residents and even immigration officers. It is alleged that majority of those reporting here are seeking passports in order to travel to Mecca for the next major event on the Muslim calendar set to take place in October.
We try as much as possible to refer them to the Department of Civil Registration and NRB so that they can assist them to put their records in order.
Officials in the area also confirmed that illegal aliens crossing over from Somalia have made way to their offices, posing one of the greatest challenges facing the immigration officials in the issuance of IDs and other official documents. Last month, the county government of Wajir announced that it had removed the identity cards as a requirement to apply for a job within the county due to the same identity crisis that has challenged the area for years on. Ian Wafula, KTN.
The Coalition for Reforms and Democracy's legal experts have begun seeking out the institutions that will be crucial in their push for a referendum on issues they consider critical for the country. The Court Committee of Experts ironically met with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, a body they wish to have disbanded over alleged mismanagement of the March 4th, 2013 general election. Take a look.
CORD's Committee of Experts, appointed under the Okoa Kenya movement to spearhead the referendum process, went to touch base with the IEBC, the body that would vet the referendum signatures and hold the much-hyped referendum.
We had come to see them to discuss the process that will be required in the initiation of this procedure that we have undertaken.
The committee was quick to dismiss recent claims by the electoral body that a referendum would cost the taxpayer nearly 8 billion shillings.
We also did raise with them an issue of a statement that was issued regarding the cost of the referendum, and it is our position that that statement should not have been issued.
Another meeting that had been scheduled between CORD COE and the Chief Justice Dr. William Mutunga failed to take off because the CJ was presiding over the digital migration case at the Supreme Court. The CORD Committee of Experts received backing from the Wiper Democratic Movement at their parliamentary group meeting in Nairobi.
Wiper reaffirms its commitment to the proposed referendum because the issues CORD once addressed are very dear to Kenyans. Wiper has asked its rank and file members to be ready to sign the referendum forms immediately they are released by the Okoa Kenya movement.
But beneath the strong statements, evidence of cracks in the Wiper party continued to show as Senator Johnston Muthama once again hit out at Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua.
Mutua sio mtu wa CORD kutoka mwanzo. Wewe unajua Mutua alifanya kazi na Kimemi, alifanya kazi na Kingi, alikuwa government spokesman, alikuwa katika muundo wa Jubilee ndani. Mgeni katika muundo wa Jubilee pale ameingia ni Ruto. Mutua alikuwa ni mmoja wao. Kwa hivyo na agenda ya kusema kwamba ile sera na urafiki wake aliokuwa na wenzake ataendeleza kuwazuia na kuwasaidia.
The senator insists that Mutua's agenda within the party is questionable and should not be ignored.
If he is going against CORD coalition, what other reference would you put on him? You have said it all. Because he said, I'm CORD, adhere to the policies of CORD, or I'm not CORD, I'm Jubilee, and I adhere to the policies of Jubilee.
Dr. Mutua, who was present in the meeting, did not respond to the barbs. It had been widely speculated that the Wiper PG was part of a wider CORD push to rein in CORD rebels. The Ford Kenya Party, another CORD affiliate party, also had a meeting behind closed doors.
With us.
Let's move to the coast, and 3 suspected gangsters were killed earlier today in Mombasa.
Police shot the men at a filling station they were believed to have been planning to attack and recovered AK-47 assault rifles.
KTN Ferdinand Omondi has the details.
Hundreds of locals milled around the Shell police station in Changamwe to witness the aftermath of an early morning drama that left 3 people dead. Police say the men were gunned down on intelligence that they were robbers.
They were planning to invade this Shell petrol station, and after officers having received the information, that is when we raided an ambush within this petrol station.
Police say the vehicle the suspects used was pushed towards the filling pumps as if it had no fuel to gain easy access to the station and commit the robbery. At that moment, the police opened fire, killing 3 instantly.
We have recovered 2 AK-47 with 62 ammunition, that is 7.6 millimeters.
However, a patrol attendant at the station suggests police use the gangsters' own weapons on them.
Gari imekuja kama customer, kasimama kasema awekewa mafuta 500, kawekea 500. Sasa hiyo nikimaliza kabla sijafunga tenki, nikaona gari nyingine imekuja nyuma, watu wakakuja wakawaambia wasimame hapo. Sasa vile wamesimama, wakafungua milango, hii milango ya nyuma ya gari, wakatoa mbaki 3. Hizo mbaki 3 wakafungua nzibu. Fungua wakatoa hizo bunduki hapo ndani. Sasa vile wamefungua, wakachukua hizo bunduki sawa, wakawajaribu wakawashuti nazo, alafu sasa wakawaachia hapo.
Kubai said these were among the suspects who have been terrorizing Mombasa and warned that the chase was on for the others. Insecurity has been a major concern in the region lately. No less than 7 deaths reported in the past fortnight alone, translating to a murder every 2 days.
Mahali popote iko watu, you expect mikora iwe mingi. Na hapa tuko na wengine wengi na wako kwa landa yetu mpaka saa hii tunawatafuta.
Police are now asking the public to keep the information flowing and help law enforcement fight crime. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
Now, while the county of Tharaka Nithi has for a long time been associated with a larger Meru region, the people of Tharaka Nithi say the differences between the two areas are vast.
Tharaka Nithi is one of 3 counties that lack a proper county headquarters. Carol Nderi recently traveled to Tharaka Nithi and brings us the following story.
The terrain in Tharaka Nithi County is daunting, as we discovered on our long and treacherous journey to the interior. While vehicles ordinarily get stuck in mud, ours got stuck in sand and stalled for a while. The rough terrain in several parts of the region, an indicator of just how much work is cut out for the stakeholders. Chuka Town, for example, has only one tarmacked road. The county assembly in Kathwana was initially a mere tent before this corrugated iron sheet structure was put up. Tharaka Nithi is one of only 3 counties in the country that do not have a county headquarters and have to start from scratch in matters infrastructure.
The road network has really been very poor. We are served by less than 30 kilometers of tarmac road.
Hapa pahali tuko, hata ile fiber optic cable has not reached. Yet the government is saying that our county headquarters, they are connected, when even ICT issues are not addressed.
For a county that was previously under the administration of the larger Meru region, everything about Tharaka Nithi is remarkably different from Meru. The economic activities are different owing to the aridity of the region, as the larger Tharaka Nithi is very hot and dry. Only crops that are drought resistant, such as sorghum, thrive here. Beer manufacturers now use sorghum instead of barley to produce the beverage, therefore injecting some much needed income into Tharaka Nithi. Tamarind, popularly known as ukwaju, thrives here too. Mining of iron ore is also done on a small scale, and honey harvesting does well here.
We are the best producers now in this country of sorghum. We are the best. And this sorghum, we want the people, especially the industries, which are actually making a lot of beer and those things, to start using the sorghum from the locals.
We want to produce enough food for the purpose of feeding our people. We don't want any more food rations being given to our people.
The region, despite lagging behind in development, has a potential for growth. There is enough to attract tourists. In a remarkably dry area, we were pleasantly surprised to come across the beautiful Gekwa Falls, majestically claiming their place and could be an attraction site. The sheer beauty and splendor that is Tharaka Nithi County, and an explored tourist attraction site, as well as a means of generating power. Now, if only the right mechanisms would be put in place by the relevant stakeholders. The area is dotted with many rivers too, and River Tana borders Tharaka Nithi and Mwingi in Kitui. The boat ride ferrying people from Tharaka Nithi to Mwingi was quite an experience for us in the crocodile and hippopotamus-infested Tana River. Residents here believe that if proper mechanisms are put in place, the rivers can be used to irrigate the land for cultivation. The county received an allocation of 2.7 billion shillings from the Committee on Revenue Allocation. The county has complained that the amount is too little, since they have to start constructing schools and dispensaries from scratch, not to mention the urgent need to improve the road network. Carol Nderi, KTN, Tharaka Nithi County.
Away from the baby county, the National Assembly has approved the names of 15 candidates nominated to the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. The National Assembly debated and approved the names after the Parliamentary Justice and Legal Affairs Committee had narrowed down to 15 from the 32 shortlisted candidates. Among the 15 nominees are Alice Nderitu, Maurice Zoro, Roba Sharamo, Rose Macharia Mgoi, Anne Munyiva, and Millie Odongo. Others include Irene Wanyoike, Adan Mohamed, Osman Hesi, and former House Speaker Francis Ole Kaparo. Kaparo has been tipped to take over as NCIC chair to replace Mzalendo Kibunja, who was also interviewed but failed to make the cut. Regular KTN contributor Professor Gitile Naituli has also been nominated, as have Eric Ogwang, Belinda Ochiel, Irene Masit, and Joseph Omota. The 15 names will now be forwarded to President Uhuru Kenyatta to appoint a chairperson as well as 8 commissioners in efforts to reconstitute the cohesion body. In other news, the Kenya Land Alliance CEO Odenda Lumumba has warned that land cartels have started sneaking back into the lands ministry and cautioned the National Lands Commission against renewal of expired land leases. Lumumba welcomed efforts by the police to investigate claims of forgery and fraud leveled against the National Lands Commission Chairman Mohamed Swazuri. KTN's Patrick Amimo reports.
Maybe you people need to take your report.
The chairman of the National Lands Commission, Mohamed Swazuri, is fighting claims of fraud and forgery. Indeed, 2 petitions seeking Swazuri's removal are before the National Assembly. The petitioners want President Uhuru Kenyatta to appoint a tribunal to investigate Swazuri for allegedly aiding the grabbing of a 10-acre beach plot in Malindi and 100 acres of land in Dagoretti area, Nairobi. We sought the opinion of the Kenya Land Alliance boss over the saga.
What has happened so far from the documents that seem to be available is that the chairman of the commission okayed some people to go and pay the rents owed to in light of the public land. And by way of approving somebody to go and pay, you're basically signifying that that person essentially is in ownership.
Though Swazuri has recorded a statement with the CID, he claims this is part of a wider scheme to derail the commission from executing its mandate. Odenda is challenging investigators to do a thorough job.
In this particular matter, there would be so many people, whether at clerical level or at different decision-making level of land administration, that would be culpable to this matter. So the chairman could not be just alone. It will be a whole group of people who, from different stages, are basically collateral to this particular fraud or corruption if it did take place.
The Kenya Lands Alliance questioned the validity of title deeds issued by Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu.
One of the bigger problems that while they go to give titles in Mombasa, Taveta and other places, some of the titles belong to the dead. And basically one would wonder what kind of titles it is. Some of the land over which titles are being given has been severally subdivided.
Odenda warned that land grabbers are on the prowl and are seeking renewal of expired leases in contravention of the Ndungu Commission report on irregular land allocations.
A lot of people are now backdating the renewal to 2002. 2002 is a very famous period when the Kanu government had its last chance to dish out titles.
And here was some advice to the Lands Commission.
Do not engage in regularizing allotment letters. Do not be part of the business of merely issuing out title deeds before you have recommended a clear program of land registration throughout the country.
Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Great, you're watching KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. Let me hand you over to Bonnie Tunya for a look at business stories making headlines today.
Right, Linda, the menu is full, from reporting Equity Bank numbers to a new banking report that suggests that commercial banks are doing very well in this market. I have all the details. Back to business now. In research firm Ipsos Synovate has announced a management change that will see current managing director Margaret Ireri step down in September. After a 4-year stint at the helm of the firm and 14 years collectively, Ireri will be replaced by Agri Oriwo, who is currently the head of the Tanzanian operation. It is still unclear under what circumstances she is leaving the firm, with the firm set to give a full disclosure next week. Also leaving the group is Joe Otin, the group's head of media monitoring. This is business. My name is Bonnie Tunya. The government is set to provide financial guarantees to road contractors seeking to secure loans from the local commercial banks to secure public projects and are implemented on time. The latest move is part of a tripartite agreement between the government, the commercial banks and the contractors, aimed at delivering 10,000 kilometers of paved roads in the country in the next 5 years. At a cost of 260 billion shillings, here is KTN's Philip Keitani.
Contractors for years have cried foul over the government's inability to settle their dues on time that is hurting their business cash flow. This has in turn seen many of these contractors fail to deliver projects on time due to lack of funds, as banks also give them a cold shoulder. But under the new annuity framework, the government will guarantee contractors loans from banks, ensuring they have funds available for their projects.
We also have the legal framework, PPP legal framework in place. The government has approved several projects that range from the ports, roads, expansion, energy developments, irrigations, housing constructions, to major ICT facilities to be delivered by the private sector.
Your Excellency, this is a paradigm shift, and very many people are having to make adjustments. The engineers included, I'm one, where now the engineer and the contractor are partnering.
The president says the collaborative effort between the government, financiers and road contractors is a sure and proven way of delivering roads to all Kenyans. Kenya has only 14,000 kilometers of paved roads, with infrastructure development viewed as key to speeding up economic growth.
The vision behind our infrastructure drive is to make Kenya a low-cost investment and trading destination.
The president was speaking during the launch of the annuity framework for financing road construction. The government plans to use a similar model in big-ticket infrastructure projects to lure private sector players into financing key projects.
We expect, therefore, to see intensive road construction going on in every single corner of our republic.
The president also lamented that a combination of factors have held back the country's infrastructure transformation agenda, including, among others, lack of inadequate financing from the government, high construction cost, and inadequate capacity among the contractors to undertake mega projects. Philip Keitan, KTN Business.
Kenyan banks continue to enjoy a season of high growth, with the central bank credit report indicating commercial banks collectively posted 71 billion shillings in pre-tax profits in the first half of the year. Now, this is a 15.6% increase during the period from 61.47 billion shillings posted last year. The growth was driven by demand for credit in key economic sectors. Now, during this period, gross loans and advances grew by 5.3% to 1.69 trillion shillings, while customer deposits grew to 2 trillion shillings during the half. Now, according to the CBK Credit Department, credit standards remained largely unchanged for all the economic sectors, but were, however, tightened for the tourism and agricultural sectors. Let's keep talking about the numbers. And Equity Bank kicked off a season of high profits in the banking sector, posting a 21% jump in pre-tax profit. Now, the bank announced that during the first half, profits stood at just about 10.2 billion shillings, driven mainly from growth in its loan book. And as Adelaide Chengole now reports, the bank is currently implementing its 3.0 strategy as it seeks to sustain the growth.
During the period under review, Kenya's largest bank by customer numbers saw its loan book grow by 24% to 185 billion shillings, which saw interest income grow by 8% to 14 billion shillings. At the same time, the bank's total assets grew by 16% to 303 billion shillings. Equity has been deploying a mobile banking service to help shore up deposits, which during the period grew by 15% to 216 billion shillings from its 8.9 million customers.
The GDP is growing at 4%, so you're growing almost 4 times faster than the economy.
Equity's merchant banking and payment processing platform recorded a 58% growth, while the bank maintained its market leader position in the diaspora banking and remittance processing segment, boosting non-funded income by 19% and increasing its contribution to profit. Equity Bank is currently implementing a 4-year 3.0 strategy to position itself for future growth.
The bank is very, very well positioned and sitting on a very sound ground.
During this period, the bank intends to roll out its mobile virtual network, a game changer to mobilize deposits and take a slice of the growing mobile money business. The bank has been testing the new service with its staff and is set to deploy early next month. Equity's quest to be a telecom operator has received its share of opposition, but the bank remains unfazed.
We are ready. We have tested. We are fully satisfied. We are waiting for approval. And as soon as we get approval, the following day we'll go live.
Adelaide Chongole.
Indian and Bukusu love, but we wrote you yesterday, and the Bukusu elders want the girl's family to pay dowry. And on the big question tonight, we were asking you, do you support the fresh demand by the Bukusu elders for dowry from the Indian girl?
Well, Pinky Glani says, when the girl is ready to adopt a different culture, they should accept her as one of their own and treat her just as they would any bride of that culture.
It's a powerful one. Patrick Muriuki says it is a man who should pay bride price. As Africans, we should not abandon our birthmark.
At Omokenya says, it is outright selfishness turning the Asian family into ATMs and agony. A man pays dowry in African culture.
Duke Obaga says no one should pay dowry for marrying an African man. The elders are becoming greedy.
Nimo Malim says, but just yesterday guys were disregarding the girl's culture. How fast we forget.
And another one here from Agri says Muluya ni utamaduni wake. Hawa Bukusu walipe mahari. Wamesahau mwacha mila ni mtumwa.
Mayor Humphrey is not happy with us. He says that is perfect example of how media destroys marriages.
And Cecilia Chia says no, the man's parents have got it wrong. Dowry ni ya mwanaume, watawacha raundi.
Finally, Soko analyst says the Bukusu Council of Elders should cease with their greed and let the couple be.
Thanks for those remarks on the big question on that hashtag My Bukusu Darling. Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime. My name is Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.
I'm Linda Gutu. We'll see you tomorrow. Sleep well.